let me tell you what. I probably shouldn't even gone home last night. I should have just stayed here because that game last night started at 8 o'clock. It went very late. Fifth quarter wasn't done till almost midnight. And then we're right back at it today. The Blazers looking to rebound from a tough loss that they suffered at the hands of the Phoenix Suns last night, 127 to 110. We'll talk about it. We'll get you all ready for the action coming up. We'll head to the coach's corner in a little bit, hear from head coach Tiago Splitter, and he has some questions to answer with regards to who's going to play tonight because the injury list is getting longer and longer by the second. But before we dive into that, got to let you know that if you want to join the conversation, youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. You can join us there. Of course, you guys know that. 503-248-0620 is the telephone number. And the new fancy way for everyone to get in is the text line. Just text 88528, and we'll get your text messages, and we'll talk about them. Where Scott from Salem has already asked, what do you think of Steve Nash for a permanent coach for the Blazers? Played best years under D'Antoni, who also authored the fast-paced ball we saw today. Well, Steve Nash's coaching record kind of speaks for itself. Don't know if I'm ready to take that risk just yet. I don't know. I would have liked Mike D'Antoni back when they were looking for a coach to replace Terry Stotts. And quite frankly, I think there's a lot working against Tiago, but I do like Tiago Splitter. All right, see, that's simple. You send the text, I give you the answer. Once again, that number, 88528. All right, let's look at what happened less than, a sleep ago. Seriously, it was last night. It was a late game. Wasn't even a full 24 hours between tips, which is crazy. But the Blazers had to take on the Phoenix Suns in a game that we knew was going to be hard because, A, Drew Holiday was out again, dealing with a little bit of a calf strain. And then Jeremy Grant was a late scratch due to an illness, so you were missing your best bench scorer. You were missing your only healthy point guard. You knew it was going to be rough, but the Blazers found a way to keep the game engaging and keep the game interesting. They did call timeout at the 8-minute mark in the first quarter, trailing 16-7, but they answered with a nice run of their own to get back in the game. After one, it was 35-32. Caleb Love having himself a ball game. He had 11 points in that first quarter. In the second quarter, my notes have two words: Young Hansen. That's right, Young Hansen, the Blazers' prized first-round draft pick, got in after being recalled from the Rip City Remix, dealing with injuries. They needed him, and he had probably his best game as a pro. Looked good, scored well, did everything you needed him to do. Denny Avdia hit a late three-pointer, and the teams would head to the locker room 64-61 in favor of the Suns. Caleb Love had 13 points at the half. Shaden Sharp had 20. Denny Avdia had 12. And Devin Booker had 13 for the Suns. So you're sitting there and you're like, okay, we are shorthanded. Things are going rough, but we're going into this halftime locker room down by 3 points. Well, then the third quarter happened. In the third quarter, the Phoenix Suns outscored your Portland Trailblazers 36-21. The Blazers absolutely struggled from the field. They were just 5 of 22 from field goal range. And, of course, the Suns, on the other hand, were 14 of 26. So the Suns shot 53% in the quarter. Meanwhile, the Blazers shot 22, and that was absolutely rough. It was one of those, there's no coming back from this one. And in the fourth quarter, Blazers managed just 28 points. That was still outscoring the Suns, who scored 27, but the final score, 127-110. Taking a look at the box score, we'll start with the Phoenix Suns. Ryan Dunn had 9 points, as did Royce O'Neal. Mark Williams had 15 points. Dylan Brooks had 12 points. Devin Booker had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. Colin Gillespie had 19 points off the bench. Jordan Goodwin chipped in 10, and Oso Ogodaro had 14. For your Portland Trailblazers, Chris Murray in the starting lineup had 3 points. Tumani Kamara struggled, and that might be an understatement. He had just 6 points. He had 2 rebounds. He had 3 assists, 4 turnovers, and he was just 2 of 10 from the floor, including some of the uglier shots of the night. And after the game, he was asked about the game and the loss, and he said, "Yeah, I'm less worried about the loss and more disappointed in my personal performance because I know I can do better, and they're going to need him to be better tonight." Donovan Klingen, he had 9 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 block shots. Those 5 block shots more than the Phoenix Suns had as a team, so that's nice to see. Shaden Sharp, he led all scorers with 29 points. He also had 2 rebounds and 3 assists. Denny Avdia, 19 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and a single turnover. On the Trailblazers bench, they were led by Caleb Love, who ended the night with 17 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Young Hansen, he played 13 minutes. He had 9 points. He had 5 rebounds, 3 assists, and a block shot. So that's how that one played out, and it's not going to get any easier for the Trailblazers tonight because the injury bug is continuing to find its way into the locker room and bite this team a little bit. And you Drew Holiday out, Jeremy Grant, game time decision. Shaden Sharp, doubtful, dealing with a calf strain. So it just piles on. It piles on, as Sean Hyken said earlier with Chad, when the injury report is a thread because it's more than one tweet, you're in trouble. Here's how we're looking. Again, out tonight, Scoot Henderson, Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard, Matisse Thybulle, Blake Wesley, and Robert Williams, who is dealing with left knee injury management. He hasn't been playing the second of the back-to-backs since he got traded here, so this one comes as no surprise. Shaden Sharp listed as doubtful, Jeremy Grant as questionable as he's still dealing with an illness. Now we'll head down to the coach's corner in about 8-10 minutes, and we'll hear from head coach Tiago Splitter, where we will get an update on if Jeremy Grant and Shaden Sharp are playing or not. But if Shaden Sharp doesn't play and Jeremy Grant doesn't play, that means you're going into the night with Chris Murray, Tumani Kamara, Donovan Klingen, Denny Avdia, Caleb Love, Sidi Sissoko, Dwap Reith, Brian Rupert, Young Hansen as your available Blazers. Okay, who's going to be in the starting lineup, and how many minutes can Young Hansen play? Hopefully he doesn't foul out, because you might see 20-plus tonight from the Blazers' prized first-round pick. And I know I'm excited for that. If there's anything to look forward to tonight, it is that, because in that game last night, boy howdy, anytime he touched the ball, the fans went nuts. They were ready for him to absolutely go off, and I thought that was fun to see. It's just so amazing how loved that guy is, despite the fact that he hasn't done much. It's just the fans love him, and they want him to do well. They want him to do well. Eric Weldon in the chat says, injuries abound. I'm wearing my Shaden Sharp jersey. I'm ready to go into the game. Got my 3 friends ready to check in, too. Hey, man, sometimes all you need is a healthy body. So if you can provide one, I'm pretty sure the Blazers will take you up on that. And also in the text, Joe Hendry for point guard. You know what? I believe in him. Who doesn't believe in Joe Hendry? What I don't believe in is the fact that I just said his name and he didn't appear. And that is going to start to kill my belief in Joe Hendry. If you know, you know. But how the Blazers approach this game, I mean, they're going to be shorthanded, so they just got to go out there, put your best foot forward, play against the Chicago Bull team that they can score, they can beat you. They started out as one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. They buoyed out a little bit, but they're still a talented ball club. And the Blazers, I think you understand that obviously you're dealing with some different injuries and everything is going your way. Might not be great, but you just got to go out there and hoop, and you never know what happens. This is a great opportunity for Young Hansen and those young guys to get the development that Coach Tiago Splitter talked about in the press conference last night, and then just let the pieces fall where they may. That's pretty much what you got to do here. It's going to be rough, and then the Blazers, they get to go play Golden State and Oklahoma City in their next 2 games. So it's going to get probably a little bit rougher before it gets better. We'll talk about that throughout the show, how the Blazers can address this. What can they do when it comes to filling roster spots or getting point guards or trades or whatnot, and plenty more. But that will be a little bit later in the show. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to head to the coach's corner here, what head coach Tiago Splitter has to say ahead of this game tonight. It's Bulls versus Blazers. You can join the conversation with me, 503-248-0620. Head on over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. Or, of course, hit us on the new Rip City Radio text line. Just grab your phone and text 88528. Coach's corner coming up next on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. with you. We're getting you ready for Blazers taking on the Bulls tonight, and it is time for the Coach's Corner. As soon as he heads to the podium and starts talking, Michael Shacker will pod that audio up, and we'll head there as soon as we can. And the Orb says, I feel like we should just grab a few remix point guards for a quick fix while waiting for our injuries to heal up. The only thing is, it's not that easy. Like, you can't just go down and grab them just because they play on the remix. They have to be your two-way guys and have the ability to bring them up. So you'd have to, cut one of your two-way guys. Is that Javante Cook makes the most sense, but and go find a guy that's available. Doesn't even have to be a remix guy. It could be anybody else who's eligible for a two-way deal and willing to sign one. So there's a lot to consider and think about. It's just not as easy as just going down to the Rip City Remix and grabbing one, which is, unfortunate. But they definitely need one because point guard is kind of the problem right now. It's when Drew Holiday got hurt, you knew it was going to be bad, but then the offense has looked terrible. All right, we hear Coach, so let's head down.
Jeremy's he's there warming up. Yeah.
With Shaden, the cap just flared up again, and you're being careful. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, I mean, we still don't know. He's still gonna go to tests and all of that. He wasn't feeling like playing, so we still don't know the correct answer to time and what he has and et cetera, et cetera.
But he's going to get like imaging and stuff.
Excuse me?
He'll get like imaging and stuff.
Yeah.
Has Drew had that stuff yet?
I think he has, yeah, but still, like, he's a day-to-day, didn't change anything yet.
Running out of ways to ask you the same questions, Tiago. Just the difficulties of preparing for a team with so many guys out. How are you approaching that right now?
Yeah, I mean, tell it is not easy because, everything that we plan from preseason and how you want a team to play, all of a sudden changes a lot of things. Like, you have a different personnel right now, and how to put those pieces together and how to be good on offense, on defense. But with so many guys out, like right now, we got to also think, okay, how can we develop, some of these guys that didn't have many minutes? For example, Hansen, Caleb Love, and you go on the list, right? Like CD, and all of them are having minutes that, you're playing in the NBA, so you got to show your, why you are here and get better and develop, and we got to coach them and try to have a good game.
Is it fair to say with Rob being held out tonight that you might get to see a little bit more of Hansen tonight?
Yes.
You kind of mentioned yesterday not being able to play the same way, but how much can you change? Like, it's not like you guys got out there and practiced and all this stuff. Like, in these short spans, what can you really do different?
That's a good question. Film, see with them individually. In the end of the day, you're going to draw some different stuff, different plays. Essentially, the spacing, the one we will play, that's not going to change. But they just have different characteristics and different ways to score and different ways to defend. We got to be a little creative because, we didn't expect this, but we got to be a little creative with it.
Tamani was a little frustrated in his play last night. What are you seeing out of him? How would you assess how he's playing right now?
Well, I told him, you just got to be who you are. You're a great defender. Shoot the shots that you have in front of you. Don't give up shots. I think many times we created some offense and he's not shooting the shots that he got to shoot. Just have confidence and shoot it. And shooting the ones that he's shooting, which is those, step back threes or jab three. Just shoot the ones that you're open. We are trying to create offense for that. So I told him that he knows he's just got to, play simple.
Why do you think it is that guys, the last couple of games, have been a little hesitant to take some of those open shots? It's not just Tumani. Like, there were times last night that Chris had open shots or Shaden, and just these open threes, and they would hold the ball for a few seconds, no defender near them, they just pass it out.
Yeah, I'm encouraging them to shoot it. I mean, every time Shea has an open shot, he shoot it. That's why we create offense, so you guys have open shots. So it's part of their development. It's getting better. It's recognizing those plays and feeling comfortable taking those high percentage shots. Like I say, now we have a bunch of young guys that, they're going to get better throughout this rough moment with a lot of guys out, and I'm going to coach them better. I'm going to get better coaching. The whole staff is going to get better because it is a rough moment and a difficult moment, so we got to go through it.
Do you feel
Have you gone through this before as a player or as a coach with the rash of
Yes.
injuries?
Yes. I mean, it's not as a head coach, I would tell you, but as assistant coach, yes. We had moments when I was coaching in Brooklyn that many guys were out and the young guys had to play, or you two stars were out, and that carries a lot because you got to change the whole thing when you two stars are out. But yeah, I mean, it's part of it. It just feels like when it rains, it pours, right now, but we just got to embrace the moment and just be strong and go through these difficult moments, take it on the chest and keep fighting.
Obviously, some of it probably personnel, but you guys haven't turned teams over as much as you were early in the season. You guys haven't turned teams over as much as you did early in the season. When you look at the defensive film, do you feel like there are places you are missing, or why haven't you been able to do that as often?
Well, one of them is, not being able to share the minutes how I want. Guys have to play too many minutes, so it's tough for me to ask too many to play 38, 40 minutes and, go 94 feet and pressure. It's hard. That's why it's almost impossible to do it. But if he plays 28, 27, well, and then you have more guys on the mix that can do the same thing, when you have Matisse Taibo, and it's just different. It's really hard to play that way with less bodies. So it's a little bit on that too.
So you feel like those turnovers were coming mostly with the press, like in full court, as opposed to getting in
Yeah.
half
I
court
think
forward?
it's part of it. It's also part of other teams adapting to it. But I don't want to change our identity. I don't want to change. But of course, when you play so many minutes, you got to go zone. So we go to the zone now more. You guys notice this. So we got to back up and kind of be on the zone. That takes out of the pressure, less turnovers, and kind of maybe taking the other team out of the rhythm, the shots they want. Some games we make money out of the zone. Some games we got killed. I'm not going to lie. So we just got to be smart when we do it, what's the moment of the game, and just try to adjust over there in the moment.
You mentioned the development piece last night as well, and it was maybe a couple weeks ago in reference to Hansen, you were like, we got to be careful with him. So now you're kind of balancing that. Is there a concern about, giving these guys too much? You don't have any choice, but how do you kind of balance, the development and the plan?
Yeah, I mean, right now he's just got to play. We having guys out, we need him. It also gives us offensively a different look where he can be kind of like the hub, playing top of the key and create offense for us, because we missing some pieces that create offense for us. So he brings a different dynamic when he's on the court. And there's another way to explore. So that's why, he's going to play more minutes and develop, that way. Thank you.
All right, there you hear from head coach Tiago Splitter, and coming out of that, you heard that, unfortunately, Shaden Sharp not a go tonight. Jeremy Grant, still a game-time decision. He is out warming up, but he is looking like he will play, so that's just one more headache for the Blazers. The crazy part is it's like they went until Drew missed that game against Dallas. They had the fewest starting lineups in the NBA, the only team to play the same starting lineup for every game. And now they're going to have their, third different starting lineup in 3 games. The injuries are unfortunate. It's just something you got to deal with in the NBA. It's going to be a good chance for young Hansen and City Sissoko and all those guys to get some run and get some experience, but understand that a game's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. The Orb says, "Do we just have a bunch of C students on our on our health staff?" No, I don't think it's the I don't think it's the team's fault. There's a lot of at play here with injuries, and some we'll talk about here because, man, the overall nonsense, if you will, of the debate of back-to-backs and how many games you play and all that stuff that plays into it. I mean, the injury bug is biting everyone. The Blazers are going to play the Bucks in the coming games, likely without Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're going to play the Spurs, and they're going to be without Victor Wembanyama. So it's like the injuries are just piling up around the league, and part of that is the style of play at which the NBA does play now. Obviously, a lot faster pace, a lot more intensive. On the joints and the muscles and all that, and then the back-to-backs, the 82 games. Like, you look at the fact that Robert Williams isn't playing tonight because he doesn't play on the second of back-to-backs because they want him to heal up properly. Well, if training staffs are looking at back-to-backs and saying, okay, the second night of a back-to-back is when we have to rest guys, and you've seen it happen with Luka Doncic and all that stuff. Like, okay, so all these NBA training staffs understand that playing two games in less than 24 hours apart is bad, but the NBA keeps scheduling them. So how do they fix that? You don't know. I mean, Eric Spoelstra had a quote about today because he was asked, and it's like, the logical way to get rid of the back-to-backs is to, go to like a 72-game season. But who's going to want to do that? Because if you go to 72 games, that impacts the amount of money these players make. And I don't know if these players want to give up the paycheck and the coaches want to give up the paycheck and all these guys because, there's 10 less games work. So there's just so much that plays into that. I think that the back-to-backs are atrocious. I think you get rid of them. If you want to keep it 82 games, heck, man, start the season 2 weeks earlier and let it go a week later or something. I don't know, but fit those games in, not having to do back-to-backs. Ease up on these guys the best you can. Maybe you expand roster sizes so you don't have situations like this. Maybe you've already done that, but maybe instead of 15, it's like, hey, you can roster 17 guys plus your two ways and just expand your player pool. Like, I don't know. All I know is the injury bug sucks. It sucks that Portland is getting bit by it super, super hard right now. And, when you look at situations where star players aren't playing around the league, it's something that the league's definitely going to have to address, because it's not a good look. It's not a good look at all. If you want to join the conversation with us, 503-248-0620 is one way. You can also go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, and join the chat over there. Or, of course, you can head on over to your telephone and just go to messages and text message the number 88528, and you will send a text to the brand new Rip City Radio text line, and we'll be able, to talk right there where, no, the NBA is just full of weenies. This is the last text nowadays. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Brian Grant, those were real men that played all the time. They didn't miss games because they had a hangnail or they had a little cold, and what a bunch of babies. Okay, well, you can say that, but that's also just not the case. Back then in the NBA, they were scoring 80 points a night because they slowed down the pace so much. I'm not saying that's better or worse. I'm saying that is part of the reason those guys were able to play. The pace at which the NBA is played today is much different than it was. It pains me to say this because, it makes me feel old. But in the days of Karl Malone and John Stockton, because that was 30 years ago, right? So the game has absolutely changed. It's like arguing football. Like, oh, yeah, well, back in the day, didn't have as many receivers get hurt. Yeah, because there was no such thing as a forward pass, so a receiver wasn't going across the middle getting lit up by a linebacker. Like, there's so much that plays into that. So pace of play is part of it, and also the fact, like, look at what sports medicine has done. These guys are unreal athletes to a degree that we've really never seen all across all sports. I mean, I am the big guy who's like, oh, you take those guys from the old days and you give them modern training techniques and modern science, modern knowledge, you're breeding just monsters, right? Absolute monsters in the great way possible, because we get great sports because of it. But the pace at which these teams play now puts so much strain on the body. So much strain on the body. So I think, yeah, you can argue that the old guys, yeah, they didn't sit out as many games, and I absolutely get that. I absolutely get that. But man, it's such a different game that it's a hard comparison to make. You know, like the lowest scoring team in the NBA right now is putting up 108 points. Back in what, 96, 97, there was only a handful of teams scoring 100 points a night. When the league guys were like, final score 85 to 86 in favor of the Suns. Yeah, those are third quarter numbers now. The game has changed so much. It's absolutely insane to think about. Absolutely insane. I mean, you guys got like guys like Giannis, a 7-footer, just doing crazy things, and Victor Wembanyama, and yeah, it's a different game. It's a completely different game than what it was in the 90s. So I appreciate that text, though. Absolutely do. If you want to know what I'm talking about, what is he talking about? Text messages. Do it. Grab your phone. Text 88528. Send us a text. We'll talk about it here on the show. We're going to take a quick little break so I can catch up on some of those text messages. And when we come back, well, maybe we'll talk about, continue to talk about this injury bug, how these teams manage it, and then take a look at this Bulls team as we get you ready for Bulls versus Blazers here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Hey, Portland.
honest debate. So I appreciate you for that. But yeah, it is an absolute different game. I absolutely will die on that hill. And I know I appreciate you though, because by saying you're old enough to watch those games, you're implying that I'm young, and I'm getting pretty old. Just so you know, I remember watching MJ hit that shot over Russell against the Utah Jazz live. Wasn't there, but I remember watching it. I remember watching it. I remember being a fan of Hakeem Olajuwon and the Dream Shake. And when I talk about it, my back hurts because I'm getting old. But I appreciate those texts, man. Absolutely, because like I said, it's something that we got to debate and figure out. I don't like it, and don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that the old game was terrible or this and that. It's just, no, the injury bugs right now are weird, and it's not just the Blazers, man. It's every team. It's every team. And Another text we got in, and you can text in 88528 is the text number. Why do guys like Rob sit the second game of back-to-backs? Why not sit the first and have fresh legs in game 2 when the rest of the team is tired? That is actually a good question. We've seen some players around the league, like there is that debate, like do you sit the first or do you sit the second? And sometimes it's just, okay, the style of play, the player matches up better against this team, or maybe it's, hey, it makes more sense to have this conference win or division win or this whatever it might be. But I do think that's an absolute great observation, because sometimes it might benefit you to do that. Not to mention, if everyone automatically sits on the second of a back-to-back, you're going to start looking at your schedules and go, okay, when I get teams on my schedule who are on back-to-backs, is it game 1 or game 2? Oh, I'm playing the Blazers on game 2 of their back-to-back? Well, then maybe I know that, I can approach that just a little bit different because they might be sitting guys. So, yeah, I think that's a good observation and a good question. I don't know the answer to that. There's probably some analytics guy in there telling you why it makes sense. But I think the chess match of it makes sense to do it in the first game as well. I mean, you could have sat Rob last night, played a ton of Young Hansen, and then had him ready to go tonight. So, yeah, however you approach it, it's coach's decision, but that's definitely a good question. I appreciate you sending it in. You can also join the chat with us over on YouTube. Just type in Rip City Radio and join the chat there. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. And, of course, 503-248-0620 is the telephone number if you want to be old-fashioned and call in. But who needs to call in when you got text line now? The text line's so great. Text 88528 to join the conversation with me there. And, yeah, I just want to get back to that debate, though. Like, I do. I wholeheartedly. The old game was rough. Absolutely. The old game was rough. It was physical. And it's just – but it's so much different. Like, I would rather watch these guys play in the paint and just play some old-school, beautiful basketball. The running up and down and taking 45 three-pointers a night, like, it's the modern NBA, so we watch it, we consume it, we know what it is. It's not as beautiful as it used to be. I will contend with that. Like, that's just – I like the old game too. I don't like 43s a night. Yeah, we shot 8 of 45, just missed our shots. Well, maybe you're taking some bad shots. Yeah, but analytics Donnie over there kept telling us that 3 is worth more than 2, and the math checked out on that one. Yeah, well, you know what? If you go and make 2 2-point shots, but you only make 1 3-point shot, math checks out that the 2-pointers were the better shot to take too. So, yeah, that's I don't even know where I'm going. I'm just having fun. That comment has got me off the rails because it's a good debate. Everyone who grew up with the old guys loves the old guys. They love the old style of play, and they played 82 games. But you just can't look at the two styles that the NBA's played at and argue that they're the same type of basketball anymore. And playing with pace on those courts, and then all that, it just damages those joints way more than physicality does. Physicality versus, inertia and physics. Like, I like physicality. Be physical. I like watching a guy just get the ball in the paint. Like, that's why I loved Shaquille O'Neal, right? Put the ball in the paint, back to the basket. You know what? Weight room, buddy. You can't stop me. You need to hit the squat rack. Start doing some deadlifts. Work on that lower body strength because I'm just going to pound it. Like, that was fun. That was fun to me. Kick it out. Run those offenses. Use the shot clock. Now, hey, take a 3, miss. Take a 3, miss. It's different. It's not bad. It's different. All right, if you want to join the conversation, you know what to do. 88528 is the text line. And, of course, go to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio. And once again, thanks, everyone who's chiming in, man. It's really fun. And we do got one here. All the old guys are chiming in, which I love. And another old man here, what is it that team's not practicing anymore? Part of it's their travel. It's finding the time to get in. The other part of it is, they tend to go lighter in practices just because, again, the bodies and what they're put under. I don't know the true answer to that. I know everything used to be a lot different. I wish it was like it was back in the day when they practiced more and practices were open. I hear stories from the Godfather, Dwight James, all the time about how the practices were open from the minute a practice started. And he would tell me how much he learned from being able to go to a practice and watch Jack Ramsey run an entire practice. We don't even get to watch practices anymore. We get to show up for the league mandates that a practice is open to the media to observe for like the final 10 minutes or the first 10 minutes. And you know what they do for the final 10 minutes of practice? They shoot free throws. So we don't see anything, hear anything, learn anything, which I think would be so valuable to get a chance to do. But no, I think mostly it's travel and all that stuff. Another texter says professional athletes today are way more athletic than 30 years ago, less physically, more athleticism, and the athleticism is absolutely through the roofs with these guys, and I don't know if that's even really debatable. And it's not to say that the guys of the 80s and the 90s weren't athletes. They absolutely were. They would thrive in a modern sports setting, because if you took guys like Dr. J and Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Isaiah Thomas, right, the Bill Lambiers, those guys, and you gave them modern sports medicine, modern training techniques, trust me, they'd be phenomenal. And I used to do training and all that, and personal training, and worked with the athletic departments at college. And it's crazy how much athletic science has changed in just the last 15 years. That gives you freak athletes. And one more before we go to break. Old school 90s basketball with the dominance of the big man in the paint is the equivalent of watching the flex phone in football. It works. It's beautiful. My gut tells me I have an idea who sent that text. The flex phone's beautiful. Run the ball. 3 yards in a cloud of dust, which is smart, because if you're averaging 3 yards per carry, you get 4 downs, you only need to go 10 yards. Math checks out. All right, if you guys are wondering what I'm reading text messages. If you want to text the show, 88528 is the way to do it. We're going to take a quick little break here, and when we return, we're going to hit you with our keys to the game. What do the Blazers need to do to win against the Chicago Bulls? It's going to be tough since half the team's out, but we're going to talk about it anyway when we return from the break here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
Hey, Portland, Chad here with my friend Matt Troy of RedViveHealth.org. They specialize.
Tonight, here is Chris Burkhardt with his keys to the game. Broadcasting live from the Coors Light Studios. Coors Light. Choose chill.
Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. Time now for our keys to the game. And simply, can it be a key to the game to just say don't get hurt? Don't get hurt. You don't need another injury. You do not need another injury. That's key number one. Key number two, you're going to have to play smart in this basketball game, man. You cannot afford those mental mistakes. You got to be smart with the basketball, and you, quite frankly, you just got to play within yourself. Don't try to do too much. I think you got to maybe even slow this game down. We talked about that in our debate about old school basketball versus new school basketball. Pace of play matters so much nowadays. Back in the day, you could go slow and really milk that clock, and no pun intended for certain listeners. But no, you could play different. And I think maybe if you slow it down a little bit and just try to get some sets going, maybe you'll find some success. I think this would be a great night to let maybe let Caleb Love expand his game. I know he's a shooter, but see what you can do with the ball in your hand. Run the offense. These are the plays we want you to run. I think every single Blazer fan would probably leave here happy if they got a chance to see young Hansen run the point a little bit. And I know he's not a point guard, and I would never say you're bringing the ball up and you're making your sets like that. But again, the way that like Nikola Jokic does, right, where he is up there up top. He is setting everything up, and he's running that show. So I think it'd be nice to see young Hansen get a chance to do that. So there's a lot here tonight. The tough part is just you're playing a Bulls team who, as I said, is they're not terrible. They started hot. They've kind of come back down to earth, but they're still a top 5 team in the league in points per game at 121.7, so they're going to make you work there. They're top 3 in three-point percentage, and so, again, just like Phoenix, right, where I said you need to be aware of that three-point shot, and Phoenix absolutely killed you in that three-point shot. So Chicago, they average almost 15 makes from beyond the arc as well. That's 8th in the league. So they're going to come in offensively. They're going to be able to get to the ball in the net. They're going to be able to put up points, and you got to find a way to counteract that. And right now, the defense isn't getting the stomps that we thought it would. And so you're going to have to rely on your offense, which is a tough ask to do because the offense is not playing well right now. So how do you manage that? If the offense is playing poorly, you're obviously super depleted, and then your defense hasn't been doing what it's been advertised to do all year long. Kind of go back to what I said earlier. Find ways to slow the game down. Don't push it. Don't rush it. Don't force it. Slow the game down. Take even Chicago out of their comfort zone a little bit. Make them work. Make them work. And it might not be the thing that leads to a ton of points for you or anything, but it might just knock them off their game a little bit because they're not used to it. You look at the last 6 games for Chicago, and I talked about them starting hot. They absolutely did. They won their first 5 games, started the season 6-1. However, they have lost 5 of their last 6. But in those losses, I mean, it's 110 points, 122 points, 117 points, 113 points, 147 in that game against Utah that went to extras. And then they beat the Nuggets in their last game 130-127. So that's points on points on points on points. Slow this game down. Make this a low-scoring game, a low-possession game, and I think that's where you might have your best chance to keep this one close with the deficiencies that you have thanks to the injuries that are just piling up. And if you're just tuning in and you're missing that, Shaedon Sharpe will not play tonight. Jeremy Grant's still a game-time decision. Drew Holiday out once again. Robert Williams out as he will not play on the second night of a back-to-back as he's continuing to get back in the game shape. And as Sean Hyken pointed out, he hasn't played the second night of a back-to-back since he got traded here, so this comes as no surprise. So the Blazers come in with very, very few bodies, injury bug biting them, and now I got to weather that storm. All right, thanks everyone for tuning in. Music means it's time to go. I'm going to tell you that text line, though, one more time. 88528. Get it in your phone. Save it. I enjoyed everyone who took the time to text. It was awesome. Good conversation. Thank you so much. But don't go anywhere, because coming up next across the Trailblazers Audio Network, Chad Doing has your Trailblazers pregame show. And then tip-off at 7 o'clock, your radio voice of the Trailblazers, Travis Demers, on the call. Once again, Blazers taking on the Chicago Bulls Chicago Bulls. I don't know why that sounded so weird. Bulls versus Blazers, SNES. Coming up, tip-off in an hour. We'll talk to you after the game on the 5th quarter. Not the music. I let the music play to YouTube. What a terrible producer. All right, I'm out, guys.